Hello and welcome to Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us. This week, the trash talk at Jackson City Hall has gotten nasty, but the city still has no long-term contract lined up for garbage pickup come April. What will it take to break the deadlock? Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba returns with his perspective. He also discusses challenges at the 911 call center and his decision to lift the official mask mandate. We're talking one-on-one with Mayor Lumumba this morning on Mississippi Insight. Mayor Lumumba has been talking with 12 News in a series of one-on-one interviews over the past several months, and we always have plenty to talk about in the city of Jackson. And this week is no exception, as the mayor and council members stand at odds over the city's garbage pickup service. We're a month away from the city seeing its current contract with Waste Management expire, but we're still a long way away from locking down a new contract. Chokwe Antar Lumumba joins us now by Zoom to talk about trash pickup and other issues facing the people of Jackson. Mayor Lumumba, welcome back to Mississippi Insight.
Thank you, Byron. Thank you for having me. I always enjoy our discussions and enjoy the opportunity to elaborate to your listening audience.
Well, let's begin with the latest on the garbage service in Jackson. Remind our viewers where we are in the contract with Waste Management and what happens come April 1st.
Well, where we are, just to be clear, and there's a lot of confusion and misinformation, is that we are approaching the expiration of the emergency contract that was issued after we were unable to reach an agreement and move forward from the prior RFP. The law requires that any municipality that is issuing a contract of this variety, of this type, that we issue an RFP, that there is a scoring matrix, that we have to score those presentations and move forward. In this circumstance, to ensure objectivity in the process, to ensure that no one was led by any bias that they may carry, we invited a blind scoring process. What that means is that none of the respondents put their name, any watermark, any identifying features to their presentation so that it would be known who they were. It was given to the review committee so that they could judge those submissions just merely on the basis of what they were proposing and factors of their history. And out of that, what we did for the first time as an administration in Jackson's history was present the information as it was received by that review committee and give it to the council, even though that is a mayoral responsibility and right. I gave the council the opportunity to see those blind results and give an indication. Out of that, they selected two, and what I did was select the lowest cost of the two. It just happened that the one that I selected was not only the lowest cost, but it also offered more by way of not only twice a week service, but also a bin for residents. Not that they could only put their trash in that bin. If they choose to use another bin or use bags, they could do so. But it was in an effort to ensure that we reduce the litter in our city and reduce the workload on the workforce that picks up our trash. The uniform bin allows a mechanical arm to pick up the trash and dump it. So that, unfortunately, I believe, was rejected by the council as well. And so, I will say this, as there has been the unfortunate back and forth taking place. And I know that many of our residents don't like to see that and are concerned with other issues, and I don't blame them. I'm faced with the balancing act of taking the high ground of being the mayor of the city of Jackson and the seat in which I hold, which I frequently attempt to do. And making sure that the facts and an understanding of what is taking place is clearly laid out for our residents. And far too often, I've heard residents say, we simply don't understand. We don't get what the big fuss is about. And so when I talk to them and explain in detail what's going on, the response that I get is, well, we weren't clear. We didn't know, and we understand your position now.
And basically, this is just a battle between Richards Disposal and now Waste Management.
Well, they are Richard's Disposal is the company that won the RFP. It is the company that was put forward. And so, I'm certain Waste Management position might be different. However, this is the company that was selected and they have not walked away. One other thing that the RFP states is that before you can negotiate with a next vendor, the vendor that is selected has to walk away first. And so that is written in the RFP. If we don't abide by those rules, then we are subject to lawsuit of the city of Jackson. And so to the city of Jackson and potentially great financial harm to the city. And so, yes, there are many, many concerns. It is always important to me that we focus on public safety, that we focus on infrastructure. In fact, if we dive into it, this contract does have an impact on both of those things if we really want to speak to it. However, when we look at, the largest contract that any city issues at a period of time like this, it is important that we get it right. It is important that we consider the multitude of factors that have to be considered.
Waste Management followed through on its threat to sue you and the city for allegedly failing to follow through the competitive bidding process. Do you have any response or comment to their allegations at this time?
The only thing I would add, Byron, because this is a lawsuit and it isn't wise for me to speak in great detail, I never do anytime there's a legal matter. I will just add that we faced a multinational corporation before. We're 1-0, and we like our chances of success here. We like our chances of success here, in fact, better than we liked our chances against the last multinational corporation that we faced. And so I think that time will tell the story, and we will move forward. Once again, continue to move forward in the interest of our residents.
It was early last week when you held a press conference and specifically called out two council members, Ashby Foote and Kenneth Stokes, wards 1 and 3 respectively, and you accused those two men of having their integrity compromised. I want to play a clip from that news conference and reactions from Councilman Stokes and Foote.
When's the last time you saw Kenny Stokes show up to this many special council meetings? These are the things that you have to look at, right? When's the last time that you saw Kenny Stokes and Ashby Foote so closely aligned to one another? You have to ask yourself, what is going on here?
The fact that I voted in the same way that Kenny Stokes voted, that's not any reason for me to him consider me taking a bribe. So it's really sad that city politics has gotten to this point where when he doesn't get his way, he starts throwing wild accusations.
I will formally invite the FBI. I will send them a letter inviting the FBI, and we're going to make sure that they can come in and investigate. Then after they clear Kenny Stokes, I want the mayor to go get some drug treatment. The mayor must leave this dope alone because the dope is running him crazy.
So, Mayor, are you specifically accusing the two council members there of taking bribes from someone in connection with the garbage services issue? And do you think this has become a distraction for the key issues at hand?
Well, first and foremost, I'm very cautious and particular over the words that I use, if you haven't noticed. And so, first and foremost, I said that I believe that we have certain council members that have accepted bribes and are steering a contract. I never stated which ones those were. I may have left you to infer on some level as to who they were. But I pointed out some facts, about that I think people should consider and ask these questions because these are things that are outside of the norm. Now, I never said which council members that I was mentioning specifically, I believe, to do that. I have reason for my belief, and I'm not prepared at this particular point in time to go further with that, and there's a reason for that. But I think it's important that we understand that this is critical. It is critical anytime we're dealing with a contract to know what the interest of the parties that are in the decision-making process, what those interests are. That is not a distraction from the issue. That is a key source or a key point of information that we have to consider and think about. Now, anyone who who, jumped to the conclusion that I was saying that they in particular accepted the bribe, has to ask themselves the question, one, listen to my comments, specifically before, and two, understand, why this is important. To say other things that are just salacious and intended for comic relief and attention, that is the distraction, right? And if there's any regret that I have is being suckered into the back and forth that leads away from the critical question that people need to be asking. People need to be asking, what is the best value for the city of Jackson? What is taking place? What is important to us? And ensure that everyone who's a part of this process is objective.
Up next with the mayor, concerns about 911 service in the city of Jackson. Mississippi Insight returns in a moment. I want to move on to something raised on the council last week, and that is concerning about 911 emergency response. Councilwoman Angelique Lee told council that she is concerned that not all the calls coming on into the JPD's call centers are being processed. JPD denied that, but acknowledged a struggle to answer all calls quickly due to a limited staff. Is the city doing enough to support 911 response, and what would you like to see done?
Well, I think also, first and foremost, I appreciate Councilwoman Lee's concern. And before it was mentioned in council chambers, she and I have talked about it, and she told me she was going to put it on the agenda. And I thought it was an important question to bring in the public forum. And so I appreciate that. I think that what came out of that meeting are a few things. One, that JPD has, mounted several efforts in order to improve. It also came out that with surrounding jurisdictions, the rate of response for JPD, in fact, is higher than the surrounding jurisdictions. But that is, that means very little to someone whose call isn't answered. If you're one person whose call isn't answered, then no, we're not satisfied, and no, it's not sufficient. I think it is important to note and to do some myth busting. Sometimes when a call isn't answered, people think that someone in the 911 operator, room is just failing to pick up the phone. That's not how it works. It's a drop call or a drop drop technology, which means that when a call takes place, the call immediately drops into the ear of the call taker, and so they're not choosing what they will and won't answer. So that's what happens, and then. The system, like any system, works on capacity. When there's a big event, that often makes it difficult for all the calls to be answered because there is an influx. There's a number of calls coming in all at once, and it makes it difficult. I think, that's a recent circumstance that we confronted, with the tragic death of the JPS student. And so there was a lot of concern over that, as it should be. And so, when we have instances of public disaster or emergency, when we have a tornado or hurricane or a winter freeze that is facing Jackson, we frequently tell people that if you have a non-emergency, call a alternative number instead of 911 because it's all over capacity. The other thing is that, there are many layers to this. This isn't just a JPD thing. This is a system that is provided by the county. The city doesn't provide the 911 system. The county provides, and counties across the state provide those systems. And so there's redundancy. And what should take place is that if the call is not answered by JPD because of capacity, then it is supposed to roll over to the county first. If the county is unable to take it, then it rolls over to the city of Byram. The city of Byram is unable to take it, then it rolls over to the city of Clinton. And so that redundancy is supposed to ensure that no matter how many people we have at JPD, that there's a backup to it. However, every system has capacity limits. And so we're working to better fulfill those, to reduce those limits on our side. But we still have to make certain that we work in conjunction with our surrounding partners.
And as far as staffing issues, is that a concern that you need more staff and to get more people in there and more pay?
It's an ongoing concern, and it's represented across the city. But there have been recent efforts to increase the pay. Even as the discussion took place, I told them that I welcome the discussion of how we increase the pay and make it a more attractive job. But even beyond just the pay, it's a very difficult job. And so we have to respect the men and women who take those calls, understanding that they often are hearing the worst of the worst circumstances. And not everyone is well positioned to take on a job like that. Not everyone can do that. And so what we've seen is a quick turnover rate. Sometimes turnover rate that it's, within 24 hours of employment and doing the job or actually taking those calls. Some people just can't take it. And that's not, to reflect poorly on them. There are certain jobs that you have to be built a certain way for.
We'll look ahead to Jackson's big party, the St. Paddy's Day Parade, and lifting the mask mandate when Mississippi Insight continues. Your office last week announced the applications are now open for the mayor's summer youth employment program. How key is that initiative for you, and how many kids do you think this might help this year?
Well, first and foremost, it is absolutely critical. One of the things that I'm grateful for is at a very young age, I had the opportunity to gain work experience, to be in a professional setting that I think equipped me to take on or to look and aspire to be a professional, first as a lawyer and now in my role. And so I think the earlier we introduce children to that setting, the better our chances are of them seeking professional opportunities that improve their lives, improves the community at large, and the families that are within those communities. And so I always look forward to it. I've had the opportunity, depending on time, to interact with many of those young people that are working within those departments. I think that the department heads and the employees that work with them often enjoy it as well. And so we want to see a robust effort. It's been successful in the past, and we're expecting that this year will be no exception.
Finally, the Howell Mouse St. Paddy's Day Parade rolls again this month after a 2-year hiatus. It's set to start at 1 p.m. on March 26th. This has always been a big crowd pleaser, and we're likely to see a lot of visitors this year. One, will you be taking part, and what do you hope to those out-of-towners visiting the city will see in downtown Jackson? And why did the city decide, hey, this is the year that we're going to open things back up?
Well, first and foremost, I think we've all been looking forward to the St. Paddy's Day Parade. We've been looking forward to the many events and festivals we have year-round, and we've all been disappointed that we've been unable to do so. And so we're grateful. We know that the St. Paddy's Day Parade is one of the biggest events that we typically have annually in the city, and it brings a lot of people in the city to not only enjoy themselves and have fun and watch the creativity of the floats, but also spend a lot of money. And so it's an economic driver for the city to pull this off. And so we're happy to be back in person with each other, have a good time, set aside many of the things that we've been dealing with our emotional health over the last couple of years. And so I look forward to it. And so I will also, break news here with you, Byron, that I will be lifting the mask mandate. While I want it to be clear that we are not beyond COVID and COVID is still a threat and still a deadly virus, I do believe that we are at a point in time where, the most extreme measures, such as mandates and requirements of this type, are not necessarily required. And so after consulting with the COVID task force, as I have done every step of the way, they have suggested and recommended that we lift the mask mandate. And so, that is something that we're excited about, not only for the St. Patrick's Day Parade and all of the events we look forward to having in the coming months, but as we look at those people who are joining our city, college students and frequent visitors. We want them to know that now we can get a picture of normalcy, return back to the world we once knew.
And that lifting of the mask mandate will start when, on the day of the parade or before then?
My expectation is that it will start before then. I am waiting the arrival of the executive order. As soon as our city legal department produces it for me, I will sign it. So it is quick. It will happen as quickly as their workload allows.
Mayor Lumumba, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine.
All right, and we'll be right back. Thank you, Mayor. Big thanks to Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba for joining us this week. We'll be back next weekend with more of the political and current affairs coverage that you demand. I'm Byron Brown. From all of us here at 12 News, make it a great weekend.